السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. ثم أما بعد. We'll inshallah continue our discussion on the condemnation of dunya. And we explained what Imam Ghazali means by condemning dunya, which means that to be the slaves of this dunya and forget about al-akhirah, and to indulge ourselves into the pleasure of this dunya and make this dunya our ultimate goal. In the hadith, in the dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma la taj'al ad-dunya akbara hammina wa la mablagha ilmina. Ya Allah, don't make this dunya to be
our biggest worries.
Our biggest
worries.
Worries. Oh, yeah. Akbar hammina, our biggest worries. Wala mablagha ilmina, and utmost knowledge. So some people have يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. Most of the people don't know about Allah, about al-akhirah. يعلمون ظاهرا من الحياة الدنيا. They know, all they are experts in stock markets, right? Investments, and all these cars and games and videos and movies. They know ins and outs of all these things, but they don't know the knowledge that they need. The most important thing in this dunya, the most important thing in this life, is to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the kind of dunya he's condemning. And then he said about this life, this dunya, when it comes to our activities and our knowledge, he said there are three categories. One is what goes with you to al-akhirah, and you can see the fruits of it after death, and that's knowledge and good deeds. These are the things that we can do in this dunya, what we can take with us into al-akhirah. Al-ilm, knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and knowledge of the teaching of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is the knowledge he's talking about. And the amal, we're talking about the good deeds. So, now, when we enjoy, he's asking this question, when some people enjoy al-ilm and al-amal, they enjoy seeking knowledge. That our great ulama, rahimahumullah, will spend their entire life, not to seek money or degree or to get a particular position, but they are studying day and night because they feel the responsibility of collecting the hadith, for example, or write on fiqh, or write on Islamic theology and history and so on, so of tafsir. So these ulama, you really be amazed how many books they wrote. Actually, Imam al-Tabari, if we try to read all his books, we will die before we finish reading his books. In tafsir and in history and language, and it's just amazing. When did he write all these things? It was still used up until today. So now, for these scholars, they enjoy actually staying, reading and writing. That's their enjoyment, right? And you look at them and say, oh, what kind of horrible life, miserable life is this? Sitting in libraries or writing and reading and have tons of papers around. But they enjoy it. So Imam Ghazali is saying that, would this be love of dunya? Is this something that we can count as love of dunya? He said, no, that's not the case. Even if he loves and enjoys reading and writing. And these ulama, of course, they did not achieve what they achieved unless that they really loved it. They loved to read and write and study and travel seeking knowledge. And the same thing, he talked about salah. The worshippers, those who enjoy praying Qiyamul Layl, they enjoy it. They cannot imagine their life without praying Qiyamul Layl. They wait for night to come, and this is the time when they really keep everything behind them and they spend good time with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's their enjoyment. This is the qurrat al-ayn, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. So, and some actually said that what really scares me about death is that I won't be able to pray my prayers. And another one said, Ya Allah, if you allow someone to pray in his grave, allow me to do that. This is his prayer, his wish. That instead of spending all this time in his grave, sleeping, doing nothing, he said, if you allow some people to worship you, pray in their grave, allow me to be one of them. So, can we say that this is love of dunya? He said that this is what we mean. And he quoted the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said that حُبِّبَ إِلَيَّ مِن دُنْيَاكُمْ ثَلَاث. Three things have been made beloved to me. What are these three things? An-nisa, wives, and at-tib, perfume. وَجُعِلَتْ قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ. The cool of my eyes are in salah. The most enjoyable part. So the Prophet ﷺ was very honest, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, I love these things. From this dunya, I enjoy these things. You know, I like to apply perfume, I like to have intimate relationship with my wife, and salah is the best. So he mentioned two things related to the enjoyment of this life. You know, this is not something we'll take with us to al-akhirah. And he also, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, talked about salah. And Imam Ghazali said that he made as-salah one of the enjoyment of dunya. Ask yourself this question, what are the most beloved three things in your life? And everybody will have his own answer. Okay? So, praying, obviously, is something we do in this dunya, but it is not the condemned, it's not the condemned part of the dunya. The second category is that what he said, the opposite of this, is what we do only to commit sins and to just enjoy our life and you know, living our life without any knowledge of Allah or considering His limits, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the exact opposite. And this is the dunya madhmuma. This is the condemned kind of dunya that he's talking about. And I think Imam Ghazali also should have added a third one before the third one that he mentioned, which is that what we take from our dunya that is needed. What do we need to live in this dunya? We have needs, right? We need a house, we need, you know, to get married, to have children, to have a job, to have a career. We must have these things. And also Imam Ghazali is talking about this as a third category when he said that this is mutawassit between these two. The acts of al-akhirah, knowledge and good deeds, and the act of dunya, pure dunya, sins, you know, fulfilling our desires and following our whims. And what's in between is that what we need to do the first thing, to have knowledge and good deeds, we need to have a house, and we need to have clothes, and we need to have a ride. All these things we need. And he actually put some details here. He said, with whatever you take from these things, these are dunya, right? But we need this dunya as well. Whatever we need from this to fulfill the first category, then that is not dunya. That does not make you one of abna ad-dunya. If you want to have a house and have a job in order to avoid begging people and asking others, to be in need for people and to provide for your family, and that's not of dunya, right? That's not of dunya because it's a necessity. You have to have these things. So how much we should have? This is the question that he's asking. How much is a necessity? And Imam Ghazali's category or standard, you know, I better not to say it, because we are way beyond Imam Ghazali's standard of what's needed. Yes, we need to eat, we need to have clothes, we need to, you know, have a house, we need all these things, no doubt. How much should we take from this to fulfill the knowledge and the good deeds that help us in al-akhirah? Right? He said more than, you know, one rough clothes and whatever food that keeps you, you know, alive and healthy, and all these things that take what's really needed to focus on your amal of al-akhirah. And he actually made a good point when he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took dunya away from his awliya and his anbiya. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kuffar are like eating and their stomach is full of food, and he sallallahu alaihi wasallam stays hungry for days. Spend days without eating anything. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Isa alayhi salam, one day he was sleeping and he put a stone under his head, and the shaitan, it's been said that, came to him and he said that even you are interested in dunya. It's like a luxury for you to sleep this way. Sulaiman alayhi salam used to feed people the best food, but for him, he eats very, I would say, very little and very kind of rough food. He's the king, he was the king, but he also understood that you don't want to really give yourself everything that you need. And he said this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did to his awliya. He doesn't want them to go from what's necessity to what's luxurious. And there are plenty of other levels in between. How much we should take. So he said we should be as close as possible from what's necessary. And avoid even to get close from this luxury, because once you are in this area, you will always need more and more. You'll never be satisfied. You get to level A, and then you want to go higher, and want to go higher, you want to upgrade, right? That's part of human nature. You get, this car, and then you are thinking about better car. You get this house, you think about bigger house, and you get this career, you think about bigger, and so on. So Imam Ghazali is encouraging people to take from dunya what is needed. How much? This is the fourth category that I suggest that it should have been there. That he said this depends on people's choice. Everybody has a choice to make. I've been asked this question many times. So is it haram to buy a Mercedes? Someone asked me this. If you're wealthy, buy a Mercedes. It's not haram per se, but according to Imam Ghazali, he went way beyond the point. The point is to have a right. That you need a right. So instead of buying something like $60,000, $70,000, $100,000, you can buy very decent, car, 30 or 40 if you are so wealthy then. So it's not haram. We're not talking about halal and haram here. We are talking about how much our hearts are attached to this dunya. Because if you get this, and believe me, those who go this way, he will think about the Ferrari, and then will think about the Rolls Royce, and then will think about something bigger and better. So when we have this knowledge, our niyyah, our intention, our determination, our goal, our objective is al-akhirah, then we should take from this dunya what's necessary. So he's saying that when we take these things, it's halal, pure halal things that we need with the intention of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then there's nothing wrong. That's not that condemned dunya. There's for us not to live with this conflict within us. Alright? But if we do it with the intention of getting more and competing with our cousins, our neighbors, to show that we have bigger house and better cars and so on. So you are competing for the pleasure of this dunya, showing off, and this is not how a believer should behave. And he also talked about halal and haram from different perspective when he said this dunya halaluha hisab wa haramuha iqab. Right? So what we get, someone drinks, it's haram, right? And steals and get money from unlawful way. That's haram. And then he will be responsible for that. He will be punished for this. And how about the halal? And even the halal is hisab. And this is halal and haram from different perspective, from taqwa perspective. Right? So haramuha adab wa halaluha hisab. Halaluha hisab. It was narrated that Musa alayhi salam saw this worshipper. He died, and he was wearing something barely to cover his body. This is what he got from dunya. He needs to cover his body. So he had these very cheap clothes, just that's all what he has. Right? And Musa alayhi salam cried for this worshipper who spent his entire life praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, did not get any of this pleasure of dunya, and just took what's barely enough for him to survive. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Musa, this person, this righteous person, servant of mine, will not enter Jannah until he is asked about these clothes, where he get it from. He'll be asked about this. ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Read Surah Al-Takathur. أَلْهَاكُمُ التَّكَاثُرُ. Takathur, increasing in pleasure of this dunya, made you unaware about what you should do. لهو يعني ألهاكم, distracted you. Right? تكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألون يومئذ عن النعيم. You will be asked about the na'im. What na'im? Rasulullah sallam went out one day, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and Umar radiallahu anhu. They came out of their homes hoping that someone will feed them. Sahaba went through very tough times. Especially in the beginning of Hijrah, so many Muhajirin came and there was lack of food and provision. So they met each other, Abu Bakr and Umar, and said, so what are you doing now? So Dhuhr time, usually people stay home. He said, Wallahi, nothing but hunger. I'm so hungry. He said, Wallahi, the same thing actually brought me out. And then they found Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, what brought me out is what brought you out. So let's go to our brother, one of the Ansar, who has farms. Then he went to him, and he was extremely happy, and he ran to his wife and told her, prepare some food. The Prophet and Abu Bakr and Umar with a great honor. So they stayed there, and his wife baked some bread, and they had also some meat, and they provide this lunch for them, and they ate, and he brought to them kind of cold water, not like our cold water, but they try to cool water with some tools. Yeah. So he sallallahu alaihi wasallam took a piece of this bread and a piece of the meat, and he put it and he wrapped it, and he sent someone, he said, send this to Fatima, my daughter, because I know she did not eat this for so long. And they ate, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, Wallahi, you will be asked about this na'im in al-akhirah. Right? That's na'im. We'll be asked about, so even the halal things. Where do you get this from? Where do you get this food from? Where do you get this clothes from? Where do you get this house from? Where do you get this? Everything will be asked about, even the halal things. So the point he wants to make is that just take what's necessary. Don't expose yourself to these questions. Right? Don't take so much, because if you take so much halal even, then you'll be asked about it. When the hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا تزول قدم عبد يوم القيامة حتى يسأل عن أربع. The person will not leave the scene of the day of judgment until he's asked about four things. Right? And عمره فيما أفناه, his life, what did he do in his life? وعن شبابه, his youth in particular. And then وعن علمه فيما عمل فيه, the knowledge he got, what did he do with the knowledge? And وعن ماله من أين اكتسبه وفيما أنفقه, how did he make it, or how did he spend it? Even halal job, spend it in halal, what you'll be asked about it. Where did you get this money from? And how do you spend it? Right? So حلالها حساب وحرامها عذاب. So Umar radiallahu anhu, one day they brought to him this, he was thirsty, and they brought to him cold water mixed with honey. They do that. We don't have juice like we have now. So they want to drink something juicy and sweet. They put honey in water. That's like luxury. So Umar radiallahu anhu, when he brought this to him, he looked at it and said, no, I don't know. Just give me just regular water. That's hisab I don't want to be asked about. With this understanding that even the halal things is hisab, will be asked about. ثُمَّ لَا تُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. And what we live is beyond even na'im, wallahi, comparing to how many people live their life in the world. It's not just na'im, we are like kings. All these air conditions and heat and cars and homes and food, alhamdulillah, abundant food and clean water and jobs and so on. We will be asked about this. There's so many things we buy and we never use, right? Just buy it on sale, just buy it, put it in the garage, and then a year, 2 years pass by, and we never touched it. We didn't even know we have these things. We will be asked about these things. ثُمَّ تُسْأَلُونَ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. What do we do? How to purify our intention? How do we know what we do in our life is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not for our love to this dunya, for the enjoyment, for the pure enjoyment for this dunya. This is not to suggest we should not enjoy our dunya. We should enjoy because Allah told us that. كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink and don't extravagate. Right? كُلُوا مِن طَيِّبَاتِ مَا رَزَقْنَاكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا. Eat from the good that we provide for you and be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِن كُنتُمْ إِيَّاهُ تَعْبُدُونَ. That's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the dunya away from his awliya, that's not because he hates them. That's not because he does not like to provide for them. Because sometimes we prevent our children from doing things they like, right? Because we love them. We take our children to the doctors to take these shots, right? And they cry and they don't like it. But we do it. We hold them until they get the shot. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not give us sometimes what we love because He subhanahu wa ta'ala wants our place in Jannah to be even more perfect. To get the better place and higher degree in Jannah. Right? You don't want to suffer the hisab with all halal things you have. It's such enjoyment after enjoyment after enjoyment. A lot of questions. That's why Imam Ghazali made the point when he said that every enjoyment of this dunya, because this dunya is horrible to him. I mean, it's very insane. Every enjoyment you get in this dunya, there are consequences for it, even if you get it from halal. Right? He said that even when we enjoy eating, with eating, as you know, a lot of troubles come. How people eat and behave when it comes to eating and eat junk food and eat too much. You have all kind of disease come as a result of that. So you have some enjoyment, all right? Once you swallow it, the enjoyment is gone. Khalas. And now you have to deal with all these fat and junk and cholesterol and blood pressure and sugar and all these kind of things. Right? So every enjoyment in dunya is not perfect. This dunya is not perfect at all. Even the intimate relation, sexual enjoyment, it comes also with some consequences, painful things, especially for men and women. Then you will, pregnancy and delivering, and then you have children, you have to worry about their children, you have to work harder to feed them and take care of them. They make you more stingy and more coward. This is a fact. Children makes people more coward and more stingy. We have this worry, concern about your children. So yes, you enjoy, a minute or 2 or 3 or 5, and then you live with these consequences. So every enjoyment in this dunya is not real. That's why in Jannah there's no consequences there are no consequences in enjoyment. You eat and drink, don't worry about illness or aging or going to emergency room. All right, and have all enjoyment without worrying about any bad consequences. So even halal enjoyment, it also comes with, and in addition, when you add this perspective that Imam Ghazali introduced here, that you will be asked about these enjoyments. You'll be asked about all these pleasure. Halaluha hisab, haramuha adab. Right, this hisab that we cannot just ignore. So what we get from this dunya that helps us to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's not the condemned love of dunya. That's not what it is. And that's why we really need to revisit our intention before we do anything. And we need to remember that we work for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We study for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We build We start for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything we do for Allah. It has to be clear in our mind. So these activities would be considered a form of ibadah, worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? But when we do this and we try to get more and more and more, that's called no, that's not necessity. That's tana'um. And that's not for Allah. And between tana'um and necessity, there is something called haja. These haja and darura are terms used by Muslim jurists or usuliyun, scholars of Islamic jurisprudence. This haja and this darura means necessity. And there is luxury, and in between is something called haja. Haja means need. Not necessity, but it's need. So having a darura is like eating or drinking and having a house. These are necessities without which you will die. So it's a must. It must be done, right? And luxury is the exact opposite. The things that you can perfectly live without. And in between or something that's not luxury is not also necessity. Like your car. To have a car here in Michigan, it's not a necessity. You can live without it, but your life will be tough. Your life will be difficult. If you don't have a phone or email, these things are not luxury and are not necessity, but are needed. So the ulama usually add hajat into or closer to the necessities. When they say al-haja tanzil manzilat al-darura idha amal biha al-balwa. This is one of the legal maxims in Islamic law, that when the haja is general, all people need it. It takes the ruling of darura, necessity, and necessity turn haram into halal. So in the case of necessity, you can eat dead animals, you can even eat pork if it's a necessity to save your life. Then you can. The law changes, So now you have haja, necessity, and luxury, or called tahsiniyat. So daruriyat and tahsiniyat, necessities and luxury. And in between you have the need, or hajiyat. So the hajiyat here, which one is closer to necessity and which one is closer to luxury? And you are the judge. You are the judge. If you work in computer science and all these things, having a computer is almost a necessity. It's part of your job. Right? You cannot live without a computer because this is what you do. For others, they buy a laptop just to have fun, to just use all these social media to connect with their friends. So it depends on how you look at the same thing, right? So for some, having a cell phone is a necessity. They have to. I mean, they're part of their job. They have to stay in touch with their companies and. But for others, they can live without it. The problem is all these companies, they try to convince us that it is a necessity to have their product. But in reality, it's not a necessity. It is not even a need. It is, the culture makes it almost a necessity. How can you live without a smartphone? Oh yeah, we can live with it. Humanity lived for thousands of years without a cell phone. I mean, life on Earth is possible without a cell phone. I mean, it's possible. I mean, but now, because we live in this culture, that if you don't have a smartphone, then you are out of this world. If you don't drink coffee every morning, then what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with me. I can live without coffee. If you go to this Starbucks store at 6 a.m., you find this very long line of people before they go to work. It becomes part of their routine. They have to get this cup of coffee. And you go to these stores and you find the huge menu. Well, what is this? It's coffee. You grind it, add hot water, and drink it. No. When you go there, you have to study. I mean, you have to have a master's degree in the menu there. And even my kids sometimes when we go, they order things I've never heard about. What is this? Frappuccino. What's Frappuccino? Oh, they add this and that. It's just, okay, it becomes a necessity for some people to get this cup of coffee or cappuccino and the caramel and frappuccino, you just add chino and put anything, and people like it. And for them, it becomes a necessity. I mean, I have to get this. I cannot function without it. So Imam Ghazali says that when it comes to hajiyat, we have to make our own judgment. No one can tell you, yeah, that's too much or that's too little. Right? He said, بين التنعم والضرورة درجة يعبر عنها بالحاجة ولها طرفان وواسطة. This haja in between, it has also two sides and a middle. One side is closer to necessity and the other side is closer to luxury and someone in between. So I said every aql, every wise person should make his mind whether we need this or not. Because again, even if it's halal, we'll be asked about it. Now he gave some examples of how this dunya has been giving many examples. And one of these examples is that he called it a hadith, and hadith is although very weak, but many other people said the same thing, that this life is like a dream. Sometimes in our dreams, when you get like good night's sleep, you go to this RAM, sleep, and you see sometimes very good stuff, and sometimes you see bad things, right? So they asked someone about this dunya, what is the best example of this dunya? It's just like, it's like going to sleep, and I see things I like, and I see things I don't like, and then I wake up. So he said that كذلك الناس, this is a similarity of people, an example of people. They are asleep. When they die, then they will wake up. It's as if this dunya, just we experience something we like, all the things we like, and we experience also things we didn't like, and then that's it. Wake up. الدنيا حلم وأهلها عليها مجازون ومعطلون. They also narrated this when Isa alayhi salam saw this dunya in the form of a very old and ugly woman who has like a blue face, and her teeth are not there, and she has plenty of jewelry and adornment. She's ugly, very ugly. And then he said, how many people that you got married to? She said, I cannot count them. Then he asked, did they all die or they all divorced you? She said, no, but all of them I killed. And then بؤسا لأزواج, he said, بؤسا لأزواجك الباقين كيف لا يعتبرون بأزواج. So how loser are those who still married to you and they don't know what you did to your previous husbands? And that's a metaphor of those who really love this dunya that looks from outside like a lot of jewelry and zina, but what she's in reality very ugly. Another person named Al-Ala ibn Ziyad, he said, I saw in my dream a very old woman, very ugly, would have all kind of zina and nice clothes and so on. And people are around her and they admire her very much and they look at her and things. And so I said to her, Wailaki, woe to you, who are you? Qalat, don't you know me? He said, no, who are you? She said, I'm this dunya. I said, A'udhu billahi min sharrik, I seek Allah's protection from your evil. Qalat, if you really want to be protected from my evil, then you should hate dirham. Dirham means the currency at that time, let's say $1 now. If you want really to be protected from it, you should not love money. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said that this dunya will come in the day of judgment in the form of also very old and ugly woman. And then she will come and people will look at her and it will be said to them, do you know her? And they say, no, na'udhu billah min hadihi. It will be said that this is the dunya for which you fought each other and hated each other and envied one another. Because of this, you committed all these nonsense. And this is what happened. People, brothers and sisters, they sever each other because of inheritance, because of the dunya. People, best friends, become enemies because of disagreement on dunya. Nations fight each other. You look at these big wars, World War I and II, it's just ideology. One crazy person led millions of people to destruction and death. For the dunya, for the ego, for the avama, to control. That's the dunya that people kill each other for. Then it will be thrown in Jahannam, and before that it will say, Ya Allah, where are my followers? I need my followers with me. And it will be said, let her followers follow her. Those who worship this dunya and did not see the ugly face of it. Isa alayhi salam said that بِحَقٍّ أَقُولُ لَكُمْ, I'm telling you the truth. Like the sick person who look at the very delicious food and he does not desire it because he's in pain. This happens, right? When you are very sick, then you don't desire it. You don't want to eat anything. Even if they brought the best food in the world, oh, I'm sorry, I can't eat it, right? He said, similarly, the people of dunya will never enjoy the sweetness of ibadah as long as he loves this dunya. He will not find, because he's sick. Those people who love this dunya, they will never enjoy ibadah. Because they are sick. This is their problem. Ibadah is not the problem. So, like the sick person who does not enjoy delicious food, the people of dunya will never enjoy the ibadah, ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He also said, alayhi salam, the similitude of the lover of this dunya, like the people who drink from salty water from the ocean. The more they drink, the more they become more thirsty, until this water kills them. You know, that's the example of those who love dunya. They need more, and they need more, and the more they get, the more they become thirsty. And their belly is full of water, but they are still thirsty. And they want more, until they get killed with this same water. That's another example given to this dunya. I will stop here, inshallah. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. If you have any comment or question, take it, inshallah. Any comments? Any question?
One comment.
Okay.
A few companions were very rich at the time of the Prophet. And one of them, I don't remember the name, used to wear good clothes and apply a lot of perfumes. How would Imam Ghazali describe him?
Well, this idea of abstinence or zuhd in Arabic, the reality of zuhd is not reflected on the outside. It is what's in your heart. So some ulama, some of the Sahaba, they used to have expensive, not very expensive, but nice, expensive clothes, and they apply perfume, and you know, but their heart is not attached to this dunya. It's not, dunya was in their hand, not in their heart. In other words, Rasulullah ﷺ used to have very special clothes when, you know, delegations come and talk to him, and on Eid, on Friday, he put them on to look beautiful and in special occasion. He was always beautiful, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but his clothes is very clean and very simple. And his heart is not attached. This is the problem. Abdurrahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu was very, very wealthy. But he used to give, fi sabilillah, you know, as if they don't fear poverty. If you work hard, look, all business people, you think, not all of them are generous, all right? Because they have plans. You know, he has made the first million, and then they want 10 million, they want 100, and then they always have plans to projects. That's why they don't spend, they don't share, because they always have plans to grow. So his al-akhirah is not in his mind. It's all about this dunya, my business, my empire that I want to build. But Islam does not say, don't get me wrong, that Imam Ghazali is not saying it should be poor. No, the strong believer is better than the weaker believer. And one of this power is, the strength is money. Money is strength. And you have seen that how strong nations control weak nations. All right? So when you are strong in science, in knowledge, in physically strong, if you are knowledgeable, knowledge is power. Be powerful, be wealthy, but keep it in your hand, not in your heart. I also remember these two Ubbad, or Zuhad, or Sufi guys, and you know, one of them used to wear what's expected, you know, very cheap clothes and so on. And his friend is also a good worshipper, fast and pray, qiyam and everything, and he dresses very well. And he said, how come that you claim you're Zahid and you're dressing like this? And he said to him that your clothes is calling people to give you. And my clothes tells people that, alhamdulillah, I don't need you. See how he looked at it. He said that, you know, in Islam, you know, if you dress like this, as if you are telling people, please help. But you are not without saying it. But when you dress well, this sends a message to people that, alhamdulillah, I'm fine, I don't need anybody's help. Also, to save money for your children is also recommended. It's not wise to spend everything you have, right? It's always good to be ready in the time of emergency or something like this, to be prepared. You don't want also to be in a situation where you have to go and beg people. And when Umar saw this man who was sitting in the masjid all the time, and he said, who is taking care of him? He said, his brother. Spencer. He says his brother is a better worshipper than him. The whole idea is just have to keep the balance. What are our priorities? What are our objectives? What do you want to do? Why do we get so upset when we don't get what we want of this dunya? Right? Our attitude. Alhamdulillah, the Rasulullah said that if you are safe and you have food, at least for a day, right? And you are healthy, you are the king of the world. فَقَدْ حِيزَتْ لَهُ الدُّنْيَا. The whole dunya came to him. You have everything. You have it all. You are healthy, you have food, and you have a shelter. In Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Musa alayhi salam said to his people, remember the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blessed you with. When He made you kings, muluk in Arabic, the plural of malik. He made you kings. And the ulama tafsir said that they used to cook to call a person a king when he has a wife, a servant, and a house, and a right. When you have all these four together, he called him, he's a king. So now, I don't know what we call ourselves. We are kings. I mean, kings did not drive the cars we drive now. They had cars, but compared to our cars now, You're Chrysler, you know. All these engines and all this luxury and sitting. Think about Alexander the Great. I mean, the kind of character he used to, it's very rough. Very rough. You cannot go home and come back with this. We complain, Michigan streets are horrible. That's nothing. Imagine if you have a carrot with 2 horses and no caution. I mean, it's difficult. And the safety-wise and air condition and all these touch screens and these kings do not have refrigerators that we have now that give them cold water all the time. They don't have it, right? They don't have air conditioning. You know that old picture of kings. They used to have two slaves, one on the right, one on the left, that giving them air just to cool them down. These kind of carpets and buildings and all this technology in our homes and masajid, it's very luxurious. So the idea is that you need to get what you think is necessary. All right. Don't be sad when something that you wish did not come. All right. And don't keep your hope always connected to dunya. When people wake up in the morning, what is the first thing they think about? Is it to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have more knowledge about Allah and His asma and His sifat and malaika and jannah and nar? Are you busy working for al-akhirah or busy working for dunya? As we said, we can work for dunya with the intention of helping us doing the amal of al-akhirah. But if our entire knowledge and entire goals and objectives and worry is about this dunya, then this is very problematic. Very problematic.
Yeah, a quick one. So this is regarding one of the ayahs that you recited. Al-akhillau yawma'idhin ba'duhum liba'dhin aduwwun
illa al-muttaqin. No.
So who are these akhilla? Is it just like the people like
friends? Yeah, friends and allies will be enemies to one another because they will blame each other in front of Allah subhanahu. Ya Allah, it is him. No, it was you. So all these people, evil people who come and support each other, have political parties. They're the same party, the same religion. The people, they are akhila, they are bodies, right? So they will argue against each other. Ya Allah, it is him who suggested this. Well, it is him who suggested to start this war and kill all these innocent people. No, it was you who did it. No, it was you, that meeting. So they will be enemies to one another. Although they are friends, they will become enemies to each other. إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ. The muttaqeen will be the opposite. Ya Allah, bless him because he is the one who guided me to Islam. Ya Allah, bless him because he is the one who taught me this. Ya Allah, So the muttaqeen will support each other as they pray to each other in this dunya. Alright? And when one of them leaves, then they continue to pray for him. So that's the kind of real brotherhood or friendship. Whereas the others will be enemies to one another. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.